In 1942, forest fires devoured more than 24,000 acres in Shannon and Carter counties in at least 235 fires. Vincent Bucher, minister of Shannondale Community Church, was on the front lines of firefighting. In 1990, he described what happened in the spring of 1946 when a forest fire crossed Highway 19 at Timber and moved north toward the church.
We were pretty pooped. By the end of the day, we thought we had it under control. Went back the next morning, leaving our church car parked in the hollow that had already burned.
Then they heard.
By the time we got there, our car was in flames. I'd parked it over a live ember. That car was school bus, ambulance, delivery truck, and hearse. It had hauled milk goats and strawberries and made it possible for us to call on shut-ins and do our field work. We had to cancel our work camps that summer.
In the 1880s, the pine forests of the Ozarks attracted lumbermen from the east, and Missouri became one of the leading lumber-producing states in the nation. But by 1920, most of the timber had been cut, leaving behind scarred, rocky land susceptible to erosion. It was being sold for $4 an acre. Visionaries Vincent Bucher and Leo Dry saw the land's potential. Bucher purchased 4,000 acres with the help of a campaign called Pennies for Shannondale. 20,000 people from all over the country helped purchase the Shannondale forest. The children of Vincent Bucher recall the early days of forestry in Shannon County.
It was very common at the time for people to burn off, set fires every spring, so theoretically grass would grow because we had open range and it would provide better forage for the animals and supposedly kill the ticks. So neither of which was actually very true. It takes a long time for a forest to regenerate in this area because it's very poor ground. But there have been several cuttings of timber off of it over the years, and it's all from what was planted after Mom and Dad came here because it had been stripped over before that.
But they divvied the 4,000 acres up into, I think, 19 different tracts. And we would plant about 20,000 white pine seedlings every year. And it would just be, you didn't do it until the wintertime, and you had plenty of rain and some snows. And then you'd go out, maybe half a dozen of us, young men my age and girls, we would be planting these trees. And then we would gather stones and erect a cairn and put a list of the names of who worked on that day, and that would be in that cairn. And, in a syrup can or a glass jar. And those things have probably deteriorated and lost to antiquity, they'd say.
Bucher was not a forestry expert, but he believed in nature's ability to heal itself. The forest dedication occurred in October 1949.
The high moment of dedication came on a drizzly fall day when 400 gathered out on a forested ridge. A conservation plane circled overhead as it traced out the 22-mile boundary. People from the community brought nuts from their favorite trees and laid them on an altar to be planted in the forest. Now it was up to us to practice conservation as well as to preach it.
Restoring the forest became a religious mission. Dr. Perd Deitz spoke at the forest dedication, saying, "The evidence is overwhelming that God intended these hills to raise timber." Our people at work raising their timber scientifically and with a proper sense of stewardship will themselves be raised, and the church will be raised. Forests provide $10 billion in annual income for the state, and support tens of thousands of jobs. Protecting this valuable resource takes skill. Max Gorman was the towerman for the Conservation Department's Shannondale Lookout Tower.
Typical day in the lookout tower for me, and it was getting up at maybe 4 o'clock in the morning and going out before daylight and climbing the tower and looking to see if there was any fire. So you learn to read smoke like you do a newspaper. Because when you pick up a newspaper, you glance through it, and some of that stuff you don't aim to read in the first place. It's not, not worthy. So you kind of learn to read the smoke, and you know real quick whether it's worthy to pay attention to or not. A lot of times there was only 1 or 2 towers for miles and miles, and we had to cross those far to find them with triangulation from those towers. And if you had to have enough towers to do that, at least 2, and sometimes you needed 3. So sometimes them guys were down fighting fire. So we weren't only towermen, we did everything.
Burning the woods has come full circle since the early days of Shannondale. Now, prescribed fires are used to reduce forests' fuel loads and kill invasive species.
If it's burned properly, slow, it benefits a lot of forbs and ground things that, turkeys and deer and different species of birds and insects and things like that. And it can be done without harming the trees. It's a change. People have gotten used to it a little bit. Shannondale's always been good stewards of the land.
Although forestry has changed from the early days of Shannondale, foresters still need knowledge and stamina.
Max Gorman and I've marked on every track on this piece of ground here, this 4,000 acres. I've marked, they got it in a 20 compartments, I think, best I remember anyway. But we marked the track every year, and they sold it.
Shannon County produces more than twice the amount of timber than any other Missouri county. The forests not only conserve soil, air, and water, they provide recreation and produce a crop, wood, that means an economic boost for the Shannondale community. Wood for fuel, lumber, staves, charcoal, even mushrooms and traditional arts makes a sustainable income for those who are tough, resourceful, and talented. Many people carry on the tradition of craftsmanship, using wood as their medium. In the last century, Alvy Bunch and Frank Griffith made chairs. Betty Curry made baskets. George Watson carved toys and useful objects. After losing fingers in a sawmill accident, Leland Conway found he could still carve. For generations, people in the Shannondale community have made a living with their art.
Tom's grandfather used to make these chains. It's made out of one piece of wood. This is how the chain is started. You just make a plus out of a square piece of wood, and then you just start carving in between each one until it starts making these.
In the economic recession of the mid-90s, churches across the country began divesting themselves of camps like Shannondale because they couldn't afford the upkeep. Jeff Falk became Shannondale minister in 1995 and served with his wife Lori for 21 years.
I believe Shannondale is holy ground. It's quiet, it's beautiful, and to me, it's a place to come apart from your normal daily activity, to come apart and to rest with God. There was a group that didn't see a need for 4,000 acres, and the conference minister at that time, he sat down with me and said, "Jeff, we're going to have to do something, or I'm afraid they're going to sell Shannondale." And I just couldn't see that happening. So I increased the timber sales by a little bit, and that still wasn't enough. So one day, a forester that worked for for Pioneer Forest, Lad, came in and said, "Jeff, have you heard anything about these carbon credits? They're wanting us to do that." Lad. And I said, "No, explain it to me." He said, "Real, it sounds far-fetched. Your trees make you money by sucking out the pollution of the air." So I went, "Oh." And at the beginning, I thought, that sounds crazy too. So the more I looked into it, the more it made sense. So I got in touch with some people, and what percentage of the emissions or pollution the trees suck out of the air, that's formed into carbon credits. And so what Shannondale had was they have carbon credits. And companies who, let's say a big oil company has facilities that actually pollute the air, and they want to clean up their act, so they will purchase carbon credits on a time period. They have so much time to put in smoke burners, pollution devices to help their emissions go down. So this took about a six-year time span. A lot of people thought it was crazy. A lot of people were against it, but it actually worked.
Almost 100 years ago, Shannondale minister Vincent Bucher drew people together to save a forest. Over the years, through timber sales and carbon credits, the forest has saved Shannondale. The vision for a restored forest became a reality because people loved God's creation and came together to care for it.
Of our axes we will make the woods resound, and many a tall and lofty pine comes tumbling to the ground. At night around our good campfire we'll sing while the cold winds blow. We'll range the wild woods over and once more a lumbering go. Once more a lumbering go, and we'll range the wild woods over and once more a lumbering go.